The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly above her as Nora clipped the last chart to the wall. She hadn't sat in nearly 7 hours. The clock on the break room wall ticked past 8:47 p.m., but she was still in her navy blue scrubs, her sneakers covered in faint paw prints and dried saline. Emergency in room 2. German Shepherd. Heat stroke. Owner says he's been vomiting for an hour, a tech called out. Nora didn't hesitate. She adjusted her ponytail, grabbed the 4-line, and sprinted down the hall. This is what she did. For 13 years. She was the clinic. Everyone in town knew her. Nora at Willow Valley Animal Clinic. The woman who showed up at 2 a.m. when a cat had been hit by a car. The woman who trained every single assistant, who remembered every pet by name and could intubate with her eyes closed. And now, she stood across from a man in a fitted gray suit who hadn't even worn gloves once in this place. "I'm restructuring Nora," said Dr. Victor Langley, the new owner. Fresh out of business school and apparently allergic to Soul. "You mean firing people?" she asked calmly. He gave a short laugh, as if amused she'd been so blunt.
No.
Just adjusting the salaries to reflect productivity metrics.
Mine.
45% cut. Nothing personal. Nora didn't say a word. She didn't scream. She didn't protest. She didn't even ask for an explanation. She simply took off her badge, placed it on the desk, and turned around. As she walked out, the techs stared at her with wide eyes. One tried to follow, but she gently waved her off. Outside, she sat in her car for exactly 3 minutes. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from the strangest mix of relief, rage, and clarity. She had given this place everything, and now they were willing to gut her with a smile and 2 words, nothing personal.
Well, fine.
She knew something Langley didn't. This town didn't need a clinic with glossy flyers and a marble reception desk. It needed care. It needed someone who actually gave a damn when your dog stopped eating or your cat had a seizure. And that Nora still had. Nora didn't sleep that night. Her apartment was dim and silent except for the hum of the fridge and the occasional meow from Olive, her one-eyed rescue cat, who sensed something had changed. Nora sat at the tiny kitchen table, a notebook open, and a pen pressed so hard against the page it had nearly torn. She didn't write a business plan. She wrote names. Murphy, senior golden retriever, diabetic, prefers liver treats. Binks, cat with chronic asthma, hisses at everyone but Nora. Toby, beagle, afraid of thunder, loves his ears scratched. Maxine, parrot who only says Nora. Treat. Not clients. Not cases.
Family.
She stared at the list and whispered to herself, they'll come. They have to. By morning, she'd called in a favor from a former classmate who now leased commercial property. Nothing fancy. Just an old, unused space next to a laundromat with a flickering sign and a crooked doorframe. She cleaned it herself. Spent her last 2 paychecks on a foldable exam table, a second-hand scale, and a portable ultrasound that came with a cracked screen but worked just fine if you tilted it just right. Her apartment became her supply closet. Her back seat was filled with donated towels and half-used 4 bags from the techs who still cared more about animals than policies. And she opened her new clinic with one handwritten sign taped to the window. Dr. Nora. Open for care. Walk-ins welcome. No one turned away. No logo. No ads. Just Nora. At 7 a.m., she unlocked the crooked door, took a deep breath, and waited. By 9:15, she had her first visitor. A woman holding a shaking pug came in, looking uncertain. Are you still practicing? Nora smiled softly.
Yes.
I never stopped. By noon, there were 5 more. By 3 p.m., she had a line out the door. Word had spread. The town had whispered, then shouted. The woman who treated pets like souls, not files, was back. One woman said, Victor's charging $50 just to walk through the door now. But he wouldn't even look at my dog. Said I didn't have an appointment. Another, he turned us away. Said they only accept pre-screened patients now. Can you believe that? Nora didn't say a word against him. She just gave the pug a gentle pat and asked, Has he eaten today? That night, she counted 12 patients, 12 pets, 12 worried families, and one woman who left a hand-drawn picture of Nora with angel wings, signed, "Thank you for saving my cat." Nora stared at the crayon drawing long after the last light had been turned off. She hadn't needed revenge. She needed purpose back. And she had it now. Victor Langley tapped his pen impatiently against the desk. "Dayton, where are the morning consults?" The front desk assistant fumbled with her schedule. We had 3 cancellations today. A few reschedules, too. Maybe the system's down." Victor narrowed his eyes. "We had 35 appointments booked this week. Why are we down to 17? Dayton didn't answer. Because she knew. Everyone knew. One by one, the regulars had stopped showing up. The same owners who once flooded their inbox with appointment requests now went silent. The ones who called weekly for medication refills hadn't rung in days. At first, Victor blamed the economy. Then, he blamed the flu season. But deep down, he knew. Nora. He'd heard whispers, of course. That she'd reopen somewhere. That people were lining up at her door. That she didn't care about decor or online bookings. She just cared. And worst of all, she didn't advertise it. She didn't flaunt it on social media or run ads with her face plastered across them like he did. She just worked. The same way she had for him. Except now for herself. Victor's frustration grew by the hour. His high-end receptionist quit midweek. One of the techs left a note that read, "Going where the animals matter." By Friday, he cracked. "Drive me to her place," he barked at his assistant. "Let's see what all the fuss is about." The line stretched down the block. People stood under the morning sun, holding dogs in carriers and cats in blankets. A boy held a cardboard box with "Found her by the tracks" written in Sharpie. Nora stood just outside, rolling up her sleeves, clipboard in hand. Smiling. Listening. Helping. Victor didn't step out of the car at first. He just watched, jaw tight, the smell of fresh air mixed with antiseptic and purpose wafting toward him. A woman spotted him in the car and tilted her head. "You looking for an appointment?" He cleared his throat.
No.
"Just passing by." She smiled politely and turned back toward the door. Inside, Nora gently stitched a gash above a terrier's paw while humming softly. She didn't flinch when she saw Victor watching through the glass. She didn't even stop working. She simply glanced up once, nodded, and kept going. That nod wasn't bitterness. It wasn't triumph. It was quiet assurance. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Victor stayed for exactly 90 more seconds before turning his face away and ordering the driver to leave. 2 weeks passed. Victor's once busy clinic felt like a polished tomb. The marble floors gleamed. The waiting area sat empty. The fancy coffee machine beeped once every hour, reminding no one their cappuccino was ready. And the staff?
Gone.
Dayton had left first. Then 2 more techs. One left a voicemail at 2 a.m. crying, saying she missed caring, not selling. Even the janitor, a quiet old man named Hank who used to whistle while mopping, stopped showing up. Victor tried slashing prices. Ran a VIP pet wellness promo. Nothing worked. Everywhere he turned, he heard the same phrase from clients. "We're going to Nora now." Meanwhile, over at Nora's clinic, the crooked doorframe had been fixed. Donated paint now covered the walls in a warm shade of soft lavender. A local mural artist painted a watercolor-style dog and cat on the side wall. A group of high school volunteers, who'd once interned under her, stopped by on weekends to help clean cages and greet clients. People brought flowers, baked goods, handwritten letters, and pets. So many pets. One evening, as Nora was closing up, she saw something taped to the door. It was a sticky note in messy handwriting. "Thanks for saving Brutus. He wouldn't be here without you.
Can't pay you yet."
"I promise I will." Underneath it was a $20 bill and a bracelet made of yarn. Nora stood frozen. It hit her all at once. She hadn't just built a clinic. She'd built a community. And yet, she never once gloated. Never posted about it. Never told anyone, "See? I was the backbone of that place." Because she didn't need to. Her work spoke louder than any mic drop. But not everything was perfect. One rainy Wednesday, a young vet assistant named Kelsey approached her hesitantly. "Nora, Victor came in today." Nora froze. "To hear?" Kelsey nodded. "He waited until you were out back. Left this." She handed Nora a sealed envelope. Inside, a letter. No logo. No ego. Just messy, uncertain handwriting.
Nora,
"I've lost nearly everything. And I don't blame anyone but myself. I didn't see what you really meant to that place. I didn't see what it meant to you. If you ever need equipment or backup, or even just someone to hold a flashlight during surgery, I'm around."
V.
Nora read it twice, then folded it gently, tucked it away in her drawer, and smiled quietly. She didn't need vengeance. She just needed peace. Spring came early that year. The trees bloomed a little sooner, and the morning air carried a softness that reminded people of beginnings. Nora stood outside her clinic in jeans and a loose cardigan, sipping from a chipped mug that read, "Dogs make everything better." Behind her, the clinic bustled with life. Patients coming in, soft music playing, assistants laughing. In front of her stood something she didn't expect. Victor. Not in a suit this time. He wore a gray hoodie, jeans, and looked more human than she'd ever seen him. In his hands was a crate, neatly packed medical supplies, surgical tools, and a barely used otoscope. "I thought you could use this," he said, his voice lower than usual. Nora didn't speak. Just opened the door and let him in. Inside, the energy was warm. A child laughed as a Labrador licked her face. An elderly woman wiped tears of joy as Nora handed her a diagnosis that said, "benign." Victor placed the crate on a side table. He looked around like a man walking through a memory he never realized was his. "You built something real here," he said quietly. Nora finally spoke. "I didn't build it alone. The town did. The people. The animals." He nodded. "I tried to turn something alive into something efficient." She gave a small, knowing smile. "You're not the first." He turned to her then, eyes a little glassy. "Do you hate me?" Nora shook her head.
No.
"I did.
For a while.
But then this started to grow. And the anger faded. It had to." He looked at her, as if waiting for something more. Instead, she extended her hand. Not to shake. To point. "To the back," she said. "We could use a hand organizing the meds. If you're free." Victor hesitated, then followed. 3 months later, the clinic had expanded. A second room opened. A proper surgery table installed. Victor came in every Tuesday and Friday, not as a boss, not even as a partner. Just as a vet who rediscovered why he entered the field in the first place. One day, as Nora walked into the break room, she noticed something pinned to the corkboard. A picture of her, smiling mid-laugh, with a puppy in her lap. Underneath it, someone had scribbled in red marker, "Built from kindness. Powered by purpose." She stood there for a while, eyes full. That weekend, Nora attended the town's annual Pet Day event. She didn't have a booth. She didn't hand out flyers. She just walked through the park, smiling at the families whose pets she'd helped heal. One woman caught her arm. "I heard you left that big clinic and open your own place. That's brave." Nora just smiled and replied, softly, "It wasn't brave. It was overdue."